What's up YouTube? My name's Quickie, welcome back to the channel. Today is seat hump day. Yeah, I've been dreading this. Well, I've been dreading it and I've been really looking forward to it because this is the bit that is going to make the back end of the bike look proper cafe racer. But it's going to be a nightmare to do. I haven't got any of the kit that we need to do the job properly. Ideally, it'll be done with an English wheel. There's loads of people commented, we was chatting about it before and stuff, English wheel, get an English wheel. Like, I ain't got one. At some point, because I'm going to be doing loads of bikes, and I really like the idea of making my own tank and doing my own seat humps, doing it all out of metal, so it's like solid and it's, you know, a bit more quality feel to it and stuff than just plastic. So at some point, I will be getting one of those cheap and nasty, horrible English wheels that everybody has seen on YouTube. Reason being, I don't want to use it because it's rubbish, but it is the cheapest way of getting your hands on a set of the anvils. So you got the platen wheel at the top and you got the anvil that sits on the bottom. They come in different sorts of crowns, sort of from fairly flat to really quite rounded. And I've been looking online and they're just going for stupid money, whereas one of them cheap and horrible nasty ones, you get a set of platens with it and that'll do me. I don't need a big one. I ain't got the room for a big one. I mean, I'm struggling to see where I'll put that one. But anyway, but yeah, the frames on it are absolute rubbish. If you look at him using it, the whole thing is flexing and wobbling and everything. And it's not supposed to. It's supposed to be absolutely rigid. So what I'll do is I'll get one cheap, horrible ones, nick the anvils off it, and then I'll just make my own frame. And that'll be made out of like proper, thick, chunky box section. Maybe even I-beam. Haven't decided yet. But it ain't gonna move. And that way it'll be held absolutely rigid and it'll do the job it's supposed to. The ones that I've seen on the tube, there's so much flex in the two arms and stuff. An English wheel, you're supposed to be able to roll a piece of metal in and you'll get a curve that way, front to back, because of the radius of the anvil and the radius of the platen wheel. But you'll also get it that way because of the anvil shape. And if you want it just in one direction, you're supposed to put a rubber band around the top platen. That basically takes out one of them. But on those nasty ones, it is so much flex. It don't matter what you do. You can't negate one direction of curve. So anyway, that's not an option. I ain't got one. I will get one, but I ain't got one now. We was going to be using the deep throat shrinker stretcher, and we've got a short throat shrinker stretcher, which is mostly used for flange work. So say you've got an L-shaped piece of metal, if you shrink or stretch one side of it, you can make the whole thing curve, and you can actually get quite a big curve out of it. And the hope was that I'll be able to gut that one, use the jaws out of it, and make my own deep throat one. The only trouble is the jaws are different enough that it ain't going to work. I've been doing loads of looking and stuff, and I'm not going to be able to do it with that one. So we can't use that either. That is going to get used, especially when I come to doing all the trim pieces and stuff, but ain't going to get used for the seat hump. So what are we going to do? Well, it needs to be curved in two directions. So the main curve, sort of left to right, that's easy. We're just going to, I've got some big, thick, chunky plywood. I'll just make like a dome shape for the back, and another one where Steve-O's butt's going to go. Stick the two together with something in between to keep them separate, and I'm just going to stretch a piece of metal around it, basically, just bend it, hoof it. So that will get that one in. However, this is the buck that he made. So which one are we using? I don't know which one we're using actually. We'll go with B, version B. Yeah. So back of the bike, front of the bike. That one I'm just going to stretch around, you know, bend it around the plywood. However, I've got to get this curve into it as well, and that's where it gets into it. This is where an English wheel would win out. So that's the bit that I need to do, and that's the bit that's had me scratching my noggin for quite a long time. So anyway, Andy Girding again. He pops up all the time, that fella. He's doing an infill piece for the top of his tank, just so he can move the fill hole. And he did it by planishing. basically bashing it with a hammer. And that sits quite well with me. I'm good at bashing stuff with a hammer. So that's what I'm going to have a crack at. Never done it before. But that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to get that one, and then I'm going to dink this, and I'm going to try and make it curve that way. And the way it works is basically you're just stretching the metal. So I've been on eBay, and I've got this old kit, a drawer full of them down there. But various planishing hammers and various dollies. That's it. They cost like 22 quid, I think. So you know how bad they are for 22 quid. But the dollies are actually not that bad once you dress them up a little bit. They're in a shocking state to start off with, and they're lumpy and ridgy and everything. So you do have to dress them out. But once you've done that, it's quite good. So the way it works is I've chopped up some of these. This is off that big sheet, and this is what I'm going to be using. So it's like 1.8, 2 mil thick, something like that. Proper chunky stuff. It's really solid actually, so I'm hoping it's not too thick. But this is what I'm going to be using to do the seat hump, and probably the seat pan as well, because it is pretty tough stuff. And on this one, I don't know if you can see, I'll come in a bit. So I've dressed this one up, like I say, it was in a right state. This is what it normally starts out like. So it's flat in that direction, this dolly, but it's curved in that direction. Yeah? So I've had the grinder out and I've been playing, and I've put more of a dip in this end, sort of more of a curve. I've just ground it away, and I've got it basically as flat as I can really. So that way it's curved this way, and I also got a curve that way. So the middle of this is basically crowned in both directions. Hopefully that makes sense. And I've had to dress the end of my hammer up as well, because that was just nasty as nasty gets on National Nasty Day. But basically this surface here is flat, and all I've done is I've rounded off the very edges of it, because where you're boshing it, if you don't get it absolutely flat and there's like a real sharp edge there, you're just going to start putting dinks and nicks into whatever it is you're bashing. So the idea is this is flat, that's curved, you put a piece of metal on there and you bash it. So essentially what you're doing is thinning the metal out and stretching it across the top of this dolly. Yeah? And as you stretch the metal's got to go somewhere, so it starts to crown. And it's just a case of where you bash it and how often you bash it. You don't bash it real heavy or anything, but that's kind of the idea. Stretching it and cause that bow in it. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to get something that looks a bit like that. I don't know. I really don't know if this is going to work. But we're going to give it a go and see what happens. I mean, how bad can it be? And it's a tiny little seat hump in the grand scheme of things, because we've got a wedge of Steve-O in there. Well, anyway, I'm going to get set up and I'm going to have a go, and I'll show you what we're doing. Right, that's in there snug. How hard can it be? Right, so we're watching Trev's blog. He's got really nice hair. But he's been doing this camper van thing that is turning into a catering truck, and one of the videos he showed was how to do all this. So apparently you're not burying the hammer in the material, you're kind of more bouncing the hammer off it. It's just tap, 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 tap. Real light and gentle really, and you just keep going over it. Don't stick in the same place all the time. Move the bit of metal around and it's just bouncing the hammer off it. So we're going to give it a go and see what happens. Well, it's starting to go. I've been at this I 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that, not long. And it is starting to, I don't know, can you see that? Where is it? You can see it's starting to get a little bit of a curve to it. There's obviously little, don't know if you can see it, this is obviously the underside where it's sitting on the dolly, and this is the top side where I'm bashing it. And if you feel it, there's obviously little tiny ripples and stuff, little dinks, but nothing major. I think we could be onto something here. Right, that is sort of working. I am getting a curve to it, and it's quite controllable actually as well. So if you have a look, you know, you can see it is starting to curve. It is. Takes ages. I'm going to have an arm like this by the end of it. So anyway, I've got another idea. This also came in my kit, and I want to give it a go. So what I've done, I just want to see if I can help speed things along a little bit. So all I've done is I've got a piece of that plywood I was talking about earlier, add the angle grinder, and I've just put a dish into it. It's not perfect. I know it's not perfect, but it is dished. So what I'm going to do is shove that in there, bash it with that to at least get a start of a curve going, and then I'm going to switch back to the planishing and see if that helps. I don't know, it might do. I'm just playing at the minute, if I'm absolutely honest, but I want to know what you can do. So yeah, let's give that a whirl. Right, so a little bit of a combination going on here. Can you, let me just show you this to start off with. Can you see, it is curving. And I can curve it in all directions, which is kind of cool. Sorry, I'm off to one side. So yeah, that's obviously the inside where I've been bashing it with this thing. Right, so if you look at it, I mean, it is only gentle taps, and they're really, although you can see marks in this, there aren't really big dimples or anything. It's not like, it's not as severe as on the outside, and even that is, there's nothing to that really. So that will just sand out quick as anything with a DA. It really will. But this is sort of working, so I can get curves going in both directions. The only hard part, I think, is going to be getting it absolutely even. Because obviously it's got to look like, it's got to be symmetrical, it's got to be all good and everything else. I've got the buck, and I've also got a profile gauge. You know, one of these, it's like a strip, it's got loads of pins in it, and you press it on something, it takes on the shape of it. So the idea is I want to use that to get a profile from one side and then compare it to the profile on the other side, and that will tell me where I need to stretch it a little bit more. It's going to be a long-winded thing, I think. Purely because I don't want to overstretch it. I'd rather take longer to get it done, but get it absolutely spot on, than overstretch it and get too much of a bend in it, because then you've got to try and take it out. And I've got a sneaky feeling that's not going to be as easy as you think. But it's not too bad. This definitely helps. I think it could do with a bit more of a dish to it. And like you can see, it's only very rough. Basically, I just had the angle grinder doing this as I spun it around. So by no means is it dead smooth and stuff, or even or equal, but that is definitely, yeah, look, there is definitely a curve there, and it's reasonably even. I think it's one of those things, the more you do it, the better you get. And like I say, I'm taking it real slow. I don't want to put big creases in it. I haven't got a leather bag to be bashing it in. I've got bits of wood with a dink in it. But it's not creasing anywhere. It's not particularly thinning out that you can see around the edges or anything. And you can't really feel any difference to the inside. I reckon this is going to work, you know. That one goes in there. That one will go in there. So that's going to be the sort of shape of the seat hump. So what I'm going to do is get some of this stuff. We've got a big chunk of it over there anyway. So I'm going to get a bit big enough to go on the front, and I'm going to get that shape. So basically where his butt's going to go, that shape there. And I'm going to take it all the way down to the tube. I'm probably going to make this oversized and then trim it. Probably. I don't know. We'll give it a go. So anyway, I'm going to do that one there, and then I'm going to do the same sort of thing here. I'm just going to use this as an outline. And then, so with those two pieces, like that, I'll put something in between to stiffen it all up. And then I'm just going to take a piece of sheet metal and I'm going to bend it around this formula that I'm going to make. So that will give me the basic curve that way. And then all I need to do is to, as we've been mucking about over there, get the shape into it that way. The only thing I'm worried about is obviously as you're stretching it, it's going to want to come out this way as well. So I don't know. I don't know how much it's going to give, I don't know how much it's going to bow. But I want these sides to stay flat to the tubes. I don't want it kind of sticking out and doing all that. So we're just going to have to sneak up on it and see what happens. But that's going to be it. So front and back, bend a bit of sheet over. I'm probably going to make that a little bit deeper. And then I'm going to start trying to knock this top shape into it. And with the profile gauge, I can shove it up on one side, spin it round, shove it up on this side, and I can make sure I've got the profile the same on both sides, so it's all nice and symmetrical. That's what I'm doing. That's going to work. It's just going to take bloody ages. Okay. This is the centre rib on his buck. So essentially it's this surface that I need to make a shape like that out of this stuff. Because that way I can stick it on the frame and I can just bend it around it. And I've got to do the same sort of thing on the back as well. We get to that one in a minute. So, how far do I want it apart? Right, 185. So, 185. So that's the width of it. It's not very big, is it? And if that sits flat on the frame like that, the height of this is going to be 205. Right, halfway point. Right, so something like that. So that's going to be where Steve-O's butt goes. Right, let's chop this out. Right, all I'm doing here, I've cobbled together this. It's just out of bits of scrap and stuff I've got. So it's just a plate on the back here, which I've obviously welded just down the sides, drilled some holes in, shoved some bolts in, jobs are good. This is pretty solid. So the idea is this is going to go on here. I'm going to chop it off at the back here, and I'm just going to end up tacking it, just 2 tacks. I'll cut it at an angle, 2 tacks at the top, and then the tube will basically support this anyway, and that will keep it all in position. Then I can bend the sheet metal around it. Well, that's the idea anyway. Let's have a look. So where's the marks? There's the marks. About there. Right, so that's going to want to come back at an angle a bit like that, I would say. Does that look alright? You don't want to be at 90 degrees, does it? It wants to come back a little bit. Well, let's go with that. So, I was to chop it there, and about there. Ish. Alright, so I can whiz that through the bandsaw, chop it off. That's going on there. Right, so that's how it's going to be. That'd be alright, wouldn't it? What do you reckon? It's a little bit higher at the top. See, I reckon that seat unit's too high now. Looking at it. Sticking up, isn't it? I think it needs to come down. Yes, it does. Right, that's getting chopped off. Right, I think from where Steve-O did his buck, he had it sitting on this plate, whereas this is obviously sitting on top, hence it was too high. So, we might have to trim this back piece up a bit. Because that's not looking, it's too vertical now, isn't it? So we need to take a bit more off it. That's all right, I just lopped the corner off. Actually, we could be onto something there. That's better. Where's I need something flat and what have I got? Don't know. Right, that's all on my marks. That looks about right to me, I think. Because the seat's going to come in here, and it's going to be the seat that does that. This is just going to go straight down and join here. So the seat will be doing that. And then up at the front, we've got these little fill-in bits down the side. I don't know what I'm going to do there. I'll figure that out later. But I reckon that's it. I do. I reckon we are there. Right, before I go changing my mind, I'm going to tack it in place. I am just going to measure it again real quick though. Because obviously we chopped the bottom off it. 17. Right, that's where it's going. So all I'm going to do is tack it in at the top here. Because all I need that to do is to keep this front bit where it needs to be. And then I can just break the tacks off and I'll grind it up and clean it off later. So that'll be all right. So. Cool. Right. That is what it's going to look like. Yeah. If I did it oversized, what I was going to do was obviously put this round here, mark up where I need it to be, chop it out, and that's the piece of metal that I would need to cut out. But what I'm thinking now, if I just chop out a piece of metal that big, I know it's going to be big enough, because it just is. If anything, it can come a little bit shorter, but if I was to do it that big, then I've got something to grab hold of to bend it round. I'll just cut that out. Right, yeah, seat hump, nearly done, isn't it? Not really, no. Right, so here we've got a centre line. It's only a reference, it hasn't got to be exact. Just means I stand a chance of keeping stuff square. I don't know why, I just always like to have a centre line. Right, so the idea is, line that up on there, and on there, and then this is just going to get bent round. hopefully. About like that. Ish. See, that's going to be the trouble. I need to squeeze the bejesus out of this. Right, made a little bit of headway, not a lot. I lost some footage, the camera wasn't on, the battery died. I've chomped it down a little bit just because it was getting unwieldy, but you could probably start to see the problem that I've got here. We're about, for the back of the former, this wooden bit was probably, at the back is 5mm, but here we're pretty much on the tube. Trouble is, it's sticking out. So if you remember back to the tube bending video, you have to kind of over bend it and then it kind of springs back to where it needs to be. Well, this is just straight. If I push it down so it's straight and let go, it just springs back. So basically I need to bend it from back here somewhere to here, and I'm gonna have a go at bending it around a bit of tube, like we did for the tail section. That might work. It might work, I don't know. But it's worth having a bash. But this is just what you have to do when you haven't got the proper kit to get it done. So that is touching, the middle of the touch point is there, I would say. Probably about there. And at the back, it's bowing out from about there and about there. Right, okay. See, if this doesn't work, the only other option I've got is to buy a shitty English wheel and make it a good one, which I might do, I don't know. I want to give this a bash. I just want to see if I could do it more than anything. Like I say, this might not work, but with the kit I've got, it's the only option that I've got really. I can see me just getting a wheel. Right, so that on the edge of the table. So if I can get it roughly there, then I'm hoping planishing it is gonna get me the rest of the way. I just don't know. Don't know. Stupid clamp. Right. That's one. I think what I'm going to do is just give it a go on one side to start off with, and if I can get there or thereabouts, I'll go with the other one. Ish. Something like that. Well, it's definitely brought it in. So hopefully that's done it on Which side did I do? Which side did I do? Was that one, wasn't it? Yeah, it was that side. See, it's out here a bit now. Right, let's try the other side then. Right then. All I've done is bent the other side around the tube. So it comes down nice and straight now, but it's still I still need to get a curve in it that way a little bit and that way. It's close, but it's not perfect, not by a long shot. Right then, well, it's not done. It's not done by a long shot. Bending it around the formers and bending it around the tubes and everything else has got me close. I've got a lot of the shape into it. But I ain't going to be able to do it just with planishing. I'm not going to be able to do it. This is actually quite chunky stuff. Which in itself isn't that much of a problem, but as soon as you put a bend into it, it gets really, really, really tough, really strong. So I think what I'm going to have to do is bite the bullet and buy one of those nasty, horrible English wheels, tear it apart and just make it better. And that way I should be able to get the shape into it. I might even go a little bit thinner on the metal, just because I'm not sure how much that thing is going to be able to do. And it's reasonably tight at the bottom. I've got what, a 5mm gap now, which I would easily be able to take up. The trouble is I need to be able to get a curve into it this way, so it's got a bit of a crown to it, and I also need to bring it in at the back. So essentially I need to stretch this whole middle bit, move the whole thing round, and that should get me where I need to be. But you're getting a gist of what it's going to look like. There's going to be a cheeky bit of tube showing all the way around, but I want it to be as tight a fit as I could possibly get it. I don't want water and stuff getting in there, obviously. There is going to be a seal that goes around it, but I still want it to be real snug. I don't want gaps. And just bending it around tubes and bashing it with a hammer ain't going to do it. So yeah, I just need to get an English wheel. The ones I'm looking at, the ones I'd really like cost stupid money, and they're massive, and I ain't got the room to stash one. Not a big one, but the little ones are just absolute junk. The frame is just terrible. So I'm going to get one just so I can get the anvil, the top platen and the tensioner on the bottom, and then I'm just going to remake the frame, make it nice and stiff and solid. Hopefully that will let me work with the thicker material. I don't know. And if it's a problem, I've got a template. Literally I'll just go over that with a piece of paper, mark an outline, and then chop that out of the thinner stuff, and then I can work with that. And it is going to stretch as it goes through the English wheel, so it is going to grow a bit anyway. But this is kind of what I'm thinking. I reckon it'll look all right if I can get it done. And we're not far out on the back. It's just the shape that I need to get into it that way. So anyway, that's where I'm going to call it today. Obviously a part one. There is going to be a building an English wheel video, and then we'll come back to this in part two. Because once I get this done, then I can start on the seat. And that's the last of the big fabrication done. That's it, job sorted. The seat will probably be interesting. I don't know what I'm going to do about these bits down here with the tank. Don't know. it would look stupid to have a seat, an upholstered seat going all the way up there and kind of across the, well, I don't know, would it? That might work, I don't know. If anybody's got any thoughts on this bit, give me a shout, let me know. I could have it all upholstered and kind of coming up the tank a little bit, I suppose. That wouldn't look too bad. And the upholstery is going to kind of meet up and butt onto the seat hump. So there is going to be like a lip that goes on the inside of this, round like that. So I can kind of see it in my mind, but I haven't got a full picture of it yet, and that would really help. Steve-O's not here, so he can't give me judgment or anything else. And I've kind of run into a roadblock, really. I don't really know what to do from here without an English wheel. So that's what I need to do, which kind of sucks. Well, it doesn't, because I quite like the idea of having one, because then I can have a crack at tanks and stuff as well. But I can't do it just by folding it around tubes and stuff, however much I want to. Anyway, that's where I'm calling it for the day. Thank you very much for watching. Really do appreciate all the subscriptions and stuff. If you like what you see, share it with your mates. We'd love to welcome some more folks on board. And that's it, really. I'll see you next time. Laters.